How's that looking?
Yes, we can see.
Very good. Thanks for confirming that. Right, let me just move some of these things out of the way, and away we go. So, our title today is Professional Branding, How to Sell Yourself to Employers. And I've simplified it in the sense of just selling yourself and looking for the opportunity to share the experiences of other Create mentors. And our organization is kindly funded by IRCC, the Immigration and Refugees and Citizenship Canada. Okay, next slide. Okay, all right, so this was the abstract of the presentation. And our internationally experienced professionals have got to be ready to sell themselves. That's the marketplace that they have moved themselves into, coming from their mother countries to their new home country in Canada. And this is somewhat daunting in many instances. So I'm going to focus on the process, sales process. And the way the presentation works is it's somewhat in the order of 50 minutes to an hour, hopefully 50 minutes, and then we'll have the opportunity to practice elevator pitches for some of you, and questions and answers. And I'll stay online after 1 o'clock, but I have to have a drop dead at 1:20 because my wife's recording a podcast at that time and she needs the bandwidth for her recordings. So let's continue. Let's talk about where we are at and acknowledge the territory that we are living on. And we do this to make sure that all of us who are either Indigenous or immigrant can appreciate where we live, work and play. Because this is now our land collectively, and collectively we need to protect it and look after it. I asked Alison not to introduce me because I've put this slide in, and it's a slide I routinely use whether you see it or not. And it addresses two issues here. On the left-hand column, you'll be routinely asked in screening interviews or hiring interviews, tell me a little about yourself. And this is the elevator pitch we're going to talk about in more detail. So there are 4 bullet points there. I know this stuff. I don't need to remember these lines. But in the stress of the interview, in the stress of the opportunity to talk to others, these boil down the essentials of what it is about yourself, the message that you want to get across. But the second part is target it to your audience, because what you're doing is you're asking somebody to buy what I sell. So I came here in 1978. I was transferred with my job. I arrived in January from Africa, from Ghana, where I had been working, and clearly a big step, like many of you do, from one climate zone to another. I got involved with mentoring and coaching through the Bow Valley College program, which is now finished, and was asked to participate in their advisory group, their management advisory group. And upon retirement in 2015, I joined CREAC and serve on its management advisory group. We meet about quarterly to discuss trends and drivers and potential issues. And I've coached about 20 mentees so far. And since COVID, I've also been mentoring people internationally in different countries, as you can see there, offering them up to 20 hours of coaching through a program in Toronto that CREAC has bought into. The reason for putting this on the right-hand column is this is why I want you to listen to me. I've been involved in these things so far, and I've had successes. Every one of the ones in the list at the bottom, are my Algerian, Iranian and Ugandan mentees, all got jobs within weeks of arriving in Canada, which of course is very, very rewarding. So I've practiced a bunch of issues, and so I want to share those with you today. And I'm going to cover these 6 topics, focusing primarily on the middle topic of selling yourself and offering to any of you that want to try it out exercises. And then, as I say, about 1 o'clock, we can position ourselves into questions and answers. So the first thing I want to do is I want to talk about mentorship. because there's all sorts of misconceptions about mentorships. And for me, I am offering to my mentee three things. Something clearly visible, my experience, that's on LinkedIn. Also my skills, but hidden in the funnel of my experiences are the mistakes that I've made in the past and things that I've learned from working with a variety of people. And the term coach and mentor get routinely misrepresented, and I focus on the mentor role, which I have best described as being the advice you might get from a knowledgeable aunt or uncle about what to do and when to do it. But in the process of mentorship, it is the mentee who owns the mentorship. They drive the car, they drive the process going forwards. Because on this seesaw that's demonstrated here, we've both got a range of talents. We've both committed time, but you're committing the treasure of your time because this is the wealth that you're going to get out of the process. I get value from understanding the challenges that you're facing and the learnings that you've got. So I'm going to move on to the next topic, and this topic is I'm in a mentorship process. I want you to self-reflect. I want you to look back at your career, and this is my career of 40-odd, 50-odd years. And each one of those steps often had a lightning bolt that forced change to happen. And I want, when you're looking at mentoring, I want you to look back at the steps that you've made and how you handled those lightning bolts. Now, if I was doing a full mentoring session, I would clearly go into these in more details and explain some of the challenges. Also, as part of your professional branding, look back at your career and look at the steps that you've created, that you've gone through over those years to build your skill set and your skill portfolio. Because the higher you can go up this career ladder, eventually, the fewer the jobs, so you better make sure that you've got the skill sets to sell your services to any particular future employer. And I'm really going to focus on the green bar in the middle, because in the middle of my career, I ended up going into managing and selling. And the last part of self-reflection is looking at your value proposition. So I've put my value proposition on there, and this is something I've seen in quite a few articles, is to look at the skills that you've got and rank yourself using, in this case, traffic light colours. So I'm getting far too close to 70 to do a lot of heavy manual work. So my manual skills are getting less and less. And having retired, I've stayed in touch with a variety of technologies, but I haven't really, can't say I've stayed on top of every step of the way since retirement. But I still believe that on the two left-hand sides, the cognitive and emotional, I can listen to the mentee and I can recognize what possible opportunities there might be for that individual. All of our careers transition from self-reflection to reinvention. And this is where I started in the middle. My first step was as a field geologist. I moved into computing. I went into management and sales, and then continued on as a project manager. And that's part of the self-reflection that you need to do to start looking at reinvention. Because in reinvention, this is where so many, when I start off the conversation with mentees, this is where they get stuck in the past. When you ask them about their careers, they tell you what they say, I am. And routinely, the I am is the past role. I'm a project manager. I'm a drilling engineer. I'm a agricultural engineer, whatever. But for the next job, for the next role, for selling yourself, you have to sell yourself to what you can do in your next role. And you have to imagine how to step from that next role into future roles, to make sure that you can identify what you could potentially do as part of the value proposition that you make to a future employer. And I'm going to tell you, and you all can probably vouch for this, The whole process of transformation isn't easy. You've got this wonderful idea. It was the best idea ever to move to Canada. And then you've really start to go downhill because, by golly, it's a lot of work to find a job. I really don't know what I'm doing. And we've got to find that bridge. And I hope the mentorship process offers the bridge to lift you over what is referred to in this diagram as the dark swamp of despair, and move your careers onwards to the upward ladder, as you can see on the right-hand side. All right. So that's the basic introduction to the whole concept of the transformation, the self-reflection that you should be doing with your mentor. And that sometimes is a painful process. But what's an even more painful process for the majority of individuals is the whole concept of selling yourself. And back in spring of 1981, I went to a sales school at Los Angeles International Airport, presented by a incredibly traditional American salesman who shared this 7-step process with us, and it was an eye-opening. I thought I knew how to sell at that point, but clearly I was a rank amateur. And so these 7 steps are the process of sales, starting with the whole concept of prospect and initial contact. And you're thinking, why is he telling us about this? And the punchline is, each one of these 7 steps we'll go through next is part of the process of securing long-term employment and growth on a career ladder. So prospect and initial contact, that is basically the process of searching for job opportunities and potentially making contacts through your network or through friends of friends, or however it works. And we go through this 7-step process, which I've borrowed here from the company ACT, but it works. So let's go into this as it pertains to you selling yourself. So starting off at just before noon on here, it's selling yourself to an employer. It's the whole process, step 1 of job search. We all believe we can do a lot more than we potentially can. And so the second step is the qualify. Qualify yourself for the work. Identify, print out the job description, take a ruler, mark what it would be where you are supremely qualified for the work, or where you don't have the experiences. And that leads you then onto the needs assessment. What do you need to do to make yourself qualified in many, many areas? It may be that you need to update your professional certification. It may be that you need to do some micro-accreditation. So for me, for example, is one of my transitions. I had been working as a project manager for 7 years, but I did not have the project management, the PMP certification. So although I'd learnt the hard way over those 7 years, I took myself off Fridays and Saturdays for 8 weeks and did the course at Mount Royal College, Mount Royal University now, to get myself and go through all of the processes as it would pertain to a PMP. The next part of this is to make the offer, and that is the customized resume and a targeted cover letter. And I'm going to cover that in more detail in a little while. Once that's gone in, the next part of selling is the elevator pitch. And we're going to use the opportunity a little later to practice the elevator pitch going forwards for some of you that can spare the time. One of the biggest challenges that I routinely see is people don't ask for the job. And back in 1981, at the sales school that I attended, the sales guy, Max Sachs, his name was, he said, people buy for their own reasons. They don't buy for your reasons. And that is in the world of sales. And that's exactly true in the world of employment. The employer buys your situation, your experience, your qualifications and the like, but you have to ask for the work. In this case, you have to ask for the job. And if you are turned down, ask to be reconsidered. Now that's really cheeky in many cultures. You would just say, you're the employer, you know what you're doing, so therefore, why would I say, why did you not hire me, for example? You have to be very careful with this because otherwise it comes across as incredibly rude. But it might be something that you might say along the lines of, thank you for the opportunity to apply for this position. I understand that you had a candidate that was as qualified as I was, but maybe had better experiences. So could you tell me what you were looking for and where I may continue to improve? And here comes the ask. If there are other opportunities in your organization that you're hiring for, please reach out to me before you post the job, because I believe I'll be able to offer the services that you are looking for on future work. That's the I can and I could in the reinvention process. And yes, we don't get all the jobs that we want, so we continue on the job search, and hopefully the process becomes a little less painful by going through this particular process. So that is the 7-step sales process. So let's go into some of these other aspects. Let's look at number 1, and that is, number 2. They are looking to fill, human resources are looking to fill tomorrow's job targets. It may be that they've got somebody that is suitable for the job, but they also know what else they're going to be looking for in the next weeks and months ahead. And there's an incredible cost to hiring in an organization. When I was at Baker Hughes, the rule of thumb was if you were an executive, it was minimum cost of $100,000 to hire one. And if you were a routine employee, it was probably $10,000. So these are costs that get incurred. And you have to be able to go through this I am, I can, and I could process, because you don't know behind the scenes what the employer, is going to need in the future. And that's the black hole that is shown on this diagram. Again, I am reflects what you did in your past job. I can reflects today's opportunities, and I could would reflect the future. And so the black dot disc there is what the employer needs, that's slotted in between what they are looking for today and what you could potentially do in the future. In the area of needs assessment, and we're going back around the circle again with more detail, one of the things that many mentees struggle with is they believe that the more degrees that they've got, the greater the potential for employment. And that is okay in certain work cultures, but in our Canadian work culture, yes, education is critical, but you are experienced and you have potential. So that's what they are wanting. They're wanting to know what experiences you have that you can bring to the table. And sometimes it's difficult to map your experiences in your needs assessment to what they're looking for. And I draw your attention to one of my, I think it was the first mentee that I worked with. The man's reservoir engineering experiences were second to none in his mother country. But he had no knowledge or experience of the reservoirs of Western Canada. He didn't know the production. He didn't know the types of hydrocarbons, the types of mechanisms of production and the like. So his experience was perfect in his mother country, but didn't reflect the needs of the marketplace. And so when you are, as part of the mentoring process, when you're talking to your mentor, ask for them to share some of those practical experiences about the workplace here in Western Canada, so that you can start to learn as quickly as possible about what the drivers will be for that industry. So that's that's the part of the needs assessment. Now, this is where we're really going to focus on for the majority of the rest of the presentation. You've got multiple arrows going across the page, and it's only the cover letter at the right-hand side. It's the smallest part of the process, because if you haven't done the 5 steps before that, you're not positioning yourself well to make sure that your cover letters are targeted. So how many of you, just basically have heard the term elevator pitch? And the elevator pitch was a concept that came up, maybe 15, 20 years ago, where you've had this amazing opportunity, you're at your job, and the CEO walks into the elevator and he turns to you, or she turns to you and say, "Oh, who are you and what do you do for my organization?" And you have a certain number of seconds to sell yourself, your professional brand, to the CEO. And most elevator pitches sort of really focus on that. And literally here, the C-suite, the chief executive officer, the chief operating officer, finance officer, information officer, whatever it is, every word is worth thousands of dollars. You have very little time and very little opportunity to sell yourself, so don't waste a lot of time on fluff. Get your signal to noise ratio in the perfect place. But I refer to the 5 elevator pitches, or I call it my poker hand. These are the 5 aces that I'm willing to present as part of my elevator pitches. And they have different types of message going forwards. What we're going to talk about later is the peer chat, but before we do that, let's just talk about the hiring manager. The hiring manager is a busy man or a busy woman. They have a lot on their plate and they are seeing a certain number of candidates, so you better have something that's short and sweet with your individual messages. Have you created a business card which reflects what your value proposition is to a future employer, that's got your contact information on, the ability for a LinkedIn account and the like? Have you recorded a video and placed a video that sells yourself, a sort of video elevator pitch that you might place on your LinkedIn account, for example, or something that you can send to friends and the like? What does your voicemail say when somebody phones you up to leave a message to see if you can come in for an interview? These are all part of your brands, and if you're giving a poor message in any of those, it's really holding you back. Now, beyond the peer chat is when you've got that opportunity to network with people from your profession, and that's where we'll come back to in a moment. But there's 2 other elevator pitches that I want you to focus on, and I call them the place of worship or in your community. Most internationally experienced professionals, when they arrive in Canada, they have bonds and links back to their mother country, and there are the associations across certainly Calgary and probably Edmonton and the like, where you can meet up with your community, or you can revisit and join a place of worship. And those are opportunities that you can also have an elevator pitch. Totally different message than a hiring manager. Absolutely different than a CEO. So that's another set of elevator pitch that you need to have ready. And the final one is the hardware store. I came to Canada, obviously, having, as you can tell from my funny accent, grown up in the UK with 240 volts, and had to rejig some of my electrical equipment when I arrived. And I go to the hardware store and I haven't got a clue what I need. And so you can get into conversations in that situation. You never know when you are talking to people if they have a network that you can benefit from. So obviously I'm not going to spend a lot of time focusing on your hardware store elevator pitch, but don't underestimate the opportunity to mix and mingle with people from your mother country, from your peers, and even at the hardware store going forwards. So that's the first part of self-documentation. Once you've perfected that, the next thing you need to look at is look at your social media profiles. And I call it LinkedIn and quote Facebook, whatever it is that you use. Does your current elevator pitch match what your LinkedIn message is? And that is you as an employee. That's your brand as you as an employee. Secondly, when we were hiring at Baker Hughes, our human resources department would always go and seek out a person's Facebook or Twitter account to see what type of messages they were giving to the rest of the world. Because if you have toxic behaviors on Facebook or social media, you're going to bring those toxic behaviors into the organization. And needless to say, those can often be very corrosive in a work environment, and an employer, human resources, or a hiring manager doesn't want to hire a toxic employee. So they will look at your Facebook or social media's accounts, and so you need to make sure that those sell you, the person, your brand. What does your business email say about you? And you're saying, wait a minute, I'm not working, I don't have a business email. You should have a personal email. You should have a business email. You should have one. And I just, when Alison sent me the list this morning, one jumped right out of me, and I see a email address, Miss Rabail Bana @ And that is a good, clean, business-related email address. It's much better than wildturkey@google.com. Okay, it sells this individual as a professional, or it could be project manager John Park, or something on those lines, engineer, whatever you are, right? So think about what you're saying in your emails and communications through your email address. All right. The middle area is your skills portfolio. In LinkedIn, have you listed your achievements? What have you delivered to your past employers? Have you presented internal documents? What did you do your work thesis on for your undergraduate degree or your master's degree or your PhD? What papers have you presented? If I am an artist and I want to go to the Alberta University of the Arts up by SAIT and the Jubilee Auditorium, I have to go in there with a portfolio of materials, and I have to show off what I can do, whether I'm a potter or an artist or painter, whatever I am, right? Think about having those in the proverbial briefcase or back pocket, so that if you get into a peer conversation and they lean in, the peer leans in and wants to know a little bit more about this experience that you've had or that experience that you've had, have you got those documents that you can quickly pull out and start pointing to what you've achieved technically or in a business relationship? But please do not include anything that is intellectual property or IP. Because if you show something that is branded saying confidential, 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 you immediately tell the person that you're sharing with that you cannot be trusted with confidential information. You may not have a lot of information about a past project, or it may even be in another language that may be alien to the author, to the hiring manager or the like. So look for background documents and have some of them, maybe the abstract, translated into English. But again, always make sure that those background documents are in the public domain and they can be effectively Googled. All right. Now, I've spent a heck of a lot of time talking about three things, and I haven't even got to the resume and the cover letter yet. Because you want to get all these ducks in a row before you start your delivery of value-added resumes, customized resumes. And there's a lot of confusion between the CV, the curriculum vitae, the story of your life, and the resume. You need a master CV. It should have all your deliverables, what you have delivered to an organization, not what you did. I checked this box and I did this. Your deliverables are, I reduced operating costs by 15% as a result of this. We increased the profitability margin by that. Whatever it is that's a deliverable, not I did what a petroleum engineer does, I did what a reservoir engineer does. What were the deliverables, the value-added deliverables? And you need that with you at all times, okay? But from that will come multiple customized resumes. These are focused deliverables, focused on the job description. And one of the process I do with my mentees is I do a read between the lines exercise of every job description that they want to apply for to try and clarify what the employee may be signaling in the job description so that the application in the form of a customized resume can be absolutely targeted at what their needs are, not what you think they should be doing with their job. And then once you've got a customized resume, if you have the opportunity for a cover letter, you have to address the question why you need to hire me. Don't repeat all the verbiage from the customized resume. You have to put a sales proposition in front of them and ask for that work. So those are the 5 steps that I have in value selling for, oops, seems to have locked up here. Let's go up. All right. So let's jump to the elevator pitch now. And I've put here 5 seconds on every floor. Think of an elevator in one of the big towers downtown, the Bow Building, etc. It's going to take about 5 seconds to go up a floor. So you better give the best message at the lowest floor and the least important message at the upper floors. And so this is one example. It does not have to be this, but we're going to talk, well, I'm going to let some of you practice this on us a little later. Don't give your full name, because the only name that will be remembered in an introductory process, when you're introducing yourself to people, the only name you remember at the end of meeting several people is your own. So keep it simple. If you've got a complicated name, keep it simple. Use a nickname or something like that. Don't give your family name or the like. Just simple. I'm Michael. If you are working in an organization, whether it is in a survival job or a startup job here, address the issue how you add value. I'm working to improve the profitability of your sales organization by. If you're working outside, if you're talking to somebody who is not within an employer role, you can say what you do. I work for 7-Eleven. I work for Amazon. I work for Suncor. You could also say I'm currently based in Edmonton, but I'm looking for work in Calgary. The next step is what you've done in your past. I've added value as a petroleum engineer in Algeria, for example, where we focused on driving down or increasing the safety margins or whatever it was. I have degrees in, you can talk about those, but as I said earlier on, the number of degrees that you've got is significantly less important in the Canadian marketplace, in the Calgary marketplace, than your experiences that you've covered in the earlier bullet points. And there may be opportunities, for example, to explain about the number of languages you speak. So these are the elevator pitches that you should be practicing with hiring for a hiring managing process, for a peer process, or even, as I say, for the place of worship or a community process. Okay, so your full circuit pit here, a full circuit communications is get your elevator pitches, that should have been plural, get your elevator pitches tight, write them down, put them on a slide like I did. That was the PowerPoint slide that you saw at the very beginning. Work on your LinkedIn CV. talking yesterday to Benson, and Benson, I think you're on the call here. And I told Benson that I've listed every well site that I've sat over the decades, because I never know if somebody somewhere wants to find out some information about some job in the past, and they might Google that particular well site location, and they find me as being somebody that worked on that job. So my CV on LinkedIn is horrendously long, but it reflects all the stuff that I have done over my 50-something years of experience. And out of your LinkedIn, focus on your master CV, everything that is pertinent to your future, not your past. Then from those, you focus on your resume, you focus on your cover letter, and then you start working on practicing for your screening interview or interviews, which may be with a human resources department before you might sit down with a future manager, etc. So this is a full circle. And out of that hiring interview, think about how your elevator pitch has worked and then finesse it as needed. So it's a full circle circuit. So that, in a nutshell, is selling yourself to an employer, starting off with the job search, going through the job description, qualifying yourself using the, as I say, the colored pencil, traffic lights, green for something where you're spot on and red where you've got a gap. Then you can focus on your needs assessment. Is there something you need to read up on? Could be the employer. It could be the what they traditionally require for work skill sets and the like. And then focus on customizing your resume and your cover letter and get ready to have an elevator pitch exactly focused on the job in question. The 5 elevator pitches that are referred to were generic, but this is the hiring manager elevator pitch. Don't forget to ask for the job. And if you're unsuccessful, which you will be at some point in your career, ask to be reconsidered. What additional skills would you have looked for in an individual like me to make sure that I would add value to you for this job or even future jobs that you're looking for? Okay, because the definition of insanity has been assigned to Benjamin Franklin or Mark Twain or Albert Einstein, but basically, if you just keep sending the same old resume and cover letter in over and over again and expect a different result, it ain't going to happen. And that's an incredibly frustrating process. And it always alarms me when I read in the paper, I've shipped out 100, 200, 300 resumes and never heard back. And that is a sad situation where clearly the person isn't customizing to the job needs. So I'm going to leave this slide up because I'm going to now look, it's what time? 12:40. I'm going to look for people, Alison, you're going to have to help me with this, people to raise your hands if you want to practice your elevator pitch. And one of the things I've underscored here is tell me a little about yourself. The first time I had a mentoring person, when I asked them, tell me about yourself, they were still talking 20 minutes later. Do you think I've remembered anything from the last 19 minutes? No, the signal to noise ratio was horrendous. So focus on that keyword, little about yourself. So I'm going to turn things over to Alison now, and I'm going to leave this on the screen. And let's see how we can do this.
All right, so if you're not sure, if you just go down and hover at the bottom of your screen, just to the left of the red end button, you'll see a little smiley face with a plus sign, and that says reactions. So if you would like to raise your hand, you just click that, and then you should see the raise hand feature. So I'll just do one, and it'll look like that. And I see Uche will go first, and then Rabi.
Okay, I think this is so because yeah, this is a coincidence, right? Because I have a phone interview coming up tomorrow. So I would like at the end of this to get your feedback and criticisms to to let me know how prepared I am for my interview tomorrow.
Yeah,
Okay,
awesome
so
timing.
okay, I am Uche. I like to build things. So I build tens of magnetic bearings every day for the company where I work. I work with SKF magnetic bearings here in Calgary. Um, in my previous job in my country, I led a non-profit organization that finds the intersection of education and entrepreneurship for youth in underdeveloped communities. I speak English and I have my background in mechanical engineering.
Very good. So I'm going to ask you to turn your microphone off now, Che. Did that feel comfortable to you? Do you enjoy talking about yourself? Does it seem strange to use those terms?
It was fluid. It was fluid. It was so chronicle. I love the way I transition from the basic introduction about myself to the last most important part of myself.
Very good.
We're getting a lot of feedback. If everyone can just mute their mic right now. Okay. Michael, any more feedback for Uche, or should we move on to the next one? Okay, let's go, Rabi. I think you had your hand up earlier.
I'm Rabi. Are you listening me, Alishan?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. Okay. So I'll start now. I'm Rabi. Currently, I'm working for Hyatt Place Calgary Airport. And I've worked in a bank for 10 years in various departments. In various departments in Nepal, back home. So I'm a student of finance, and I've completed my master's degree in finance. And I can speak 4 different languages: English, Hindi, Nepali, and Urdu. And I'm currently looking for to go into the banking sector again. Thank you.
Okay, very good, Rabi. One of the things that when I'm doing a mentoring sessions, mentees, is I differentiate between the mother country and the home country. And this is a hard step for us all to believe in. My mother country is England, but my home country is Canada. I'm here. And the message that you potentially give by saying in my home country is that you are not transitioned mentally from Nepal, in your case, Rabi, to here in Canada. And you are competing with Canadian born and raised employees. So this is your home country now. And I always refer to England as my mother country. So you could argue I'm being pedantic about this, but it's the message that you're giving to the person. I'm now working on my Canadian citizenship. Well, mine's long gone, but you're focusing on your new home country as opposed to your mother country, etc. But yes, a good short and sweet message. And again, Rabi, did that feel comfortable to actually talk about yourself in this way?
Yeah, it's probably the the best way, and maybe that's the I may not be doing this, which I should have been doing. That's why I'm not being I'm still struggling to present myself. Yeah, and I even find the difference between the home country and the mother country, which I'd never heard in last 4 years that I came to Canada. So this is some sort of this is helping me. Yeah, and it's way different. I can't complete myself telling to anybody. I can't present myself in 30 seconds. So this is something different for sure. Yeah, maybe I'll try best in my coming days.
Sounds good. That's it. Just don't think that suddenly you become an instantly comfortable with the elevator pitch. It takes time. So let's go on to the next one, Alison. Thank you, Rabbi.
You're
Okay,
welcome.
thanks for sharing, Rabbi. We'll go with Betty.
Thank you. So I'm Betty, and I'm research assistant working for a different research organization. My work includes data analysis, organizing data, and providing the results for different decision makers. I have a master's degree in development in resource economics. I speak 3 languages.
Okay, very good. Now, sorry, I missed what you call yourself, what your given name is.
Betty.
Betty.
Yeah.
And Betty, so that's my mother's name, for example, so I have a very soft spot for that name. But the point here is that in your profile, you've got your professional name, you haven't got your nickname. Okay, so on your screen, I'm seeing Bethlehem, right?
Yeah.
And I can see how you've transitioned, and it's 2 thumbs up for transitioning to a name that may be a little more easy to consume, and that's why at the given name, you focused on that, etc. And so people will say, well, my name is Michael, but you can call me Mike.
Okay.
Some people call me MRT, which are my 3 initials. Whatever you're comfortable with. But yes, that's a good set of messages. And what you said was that you're doing data analysis. Maybe stretch that a little bit further and said, as an example, we were able to define or improve or reduce the cost or increase the value or improve the safety, some value-added proposition. So a lot of people are doing data analysis, but what makes you special, Betty, other than your name, but your whole, what value you're bringing to the job. So thank you for sharing that with us.
Thank you, Betty. We will go with Chris if you're ready to share.
Hello, can you hear me?
We can hear you. Yeah.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Chris. I'm a finance professional with broad experience in the oil and gas sector. I recently relocated to Calgary, where my family resides. I have broad experience, like I said, in the oil and gas industry in the finance function, and do have delivered values in the areas of major project delivery, auditing, business budgeting, planning, economics, and other areas like divestment and funding, mainly within the joint venture framework. I have a double master's degree in business administration and banking and finance, and also a BSc in accountancy. I'm a professional accountant, and I belong to the Institute of Chartered Accountants of Nigeria. In Canada, I'm gradually preparing for the CPA process. I'm into the CPA process to get my designation. I speak English and also a local Nigerian language, Igbo. Thank you.
Okay, very good, Chris, and thank you for sharing that with us. I just want to pull into the second to last bullet. You, like many internationally experienced professionals, focus, and I argue with CRIAC, because in CRIAC it's called International Educated Professionals. Education is not what we're buying, it's experience. So I always focus on, you'll see me always say internationally experienced professionals. So Chris, with you shared, and I'm impressed, as I am with all of my mentees, is the number of degrees that you've got, because you've all got more degrees than I have, right? So, I'm always impressed with that. But what if you just said, I am a professional accountant, and I have, in Nigeria, I'm the Chartered Accountants of Nigeria, and I'm transitioning to whatever the lateral equivalent is here in Canada. That, you don't become a chartered accountant by just walking out of the last day of high school and walking into an office and becoming a chartered accountant. You're going to have to have built that certification up on top of levels of education. So in the signal to noise ratio, what you talked about with your degrees, if that's all you had, that would be okay. But you've got some value that's a lot greater than those degrees, and that is you've gone through the process of being a chartered accountant. You're a professional accountant. Yes, there's a little qualification, but you've got it. Let's sell it. Thanks, Chris.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chris. And we have Chigozie next door. Ken.
Hi, good morning. My name is Ken. I am a petroleum engineer. I have experience working on severe SAGD, gravity drainage, horizontal wells, and I add value with engineering design as well as project management in various oil and gas industries, as well as project management supply chain industries in the past 10 years. Presently, I work for Lois McKenzie. I previously worked in oil and gas industries in Nigeria, in Algeria, as well as in the United States of America. I'm a trained petroleum engineer, and I'm also working on getting my APEGA PhD here in Canada.
Great, Ken. So one of the things that jumps out at me there is we in our industries use TLAs, 3-letter acronyms. And so you used a 3-letter, you used the equivalent SAGD, but so many of us go forwards and use these abbreviations when your audience member, the person you're talking to, you doesn't understand a word what you're talking about in that particular example, but you compensated for that by spelling out what it was. So if I look, for example, at Alison's name card on her screen, it's CRIAC. I know what CRIAC is, but whenever I talk to anybody about mentoring, I talk about the Calgary Regional Immigrant Employment Council. Okay, that's what I talk about. I don't talk about CRIAC because CRIAC's an abbreviation that is meaningless to anybody outside the immigrant community and the sponsoring organizations and employer circles that CRIAC has engaged with over the last dozen years. So Ken, I like two things. I like that about the way you presented yourself, and you took my discomfort away by calling yourself Ken. Okay? Now, what I don't want you to get the habit of, because I commented on Betty using her abbreviation, I don't want you to ever downplay either your family name or your given name. But what I do want you to consider is if you think it is a potential risk to your employment, might transition somehow. And the perfect example of that, one of my mentees at the moment, his name is F-A-I-L. F-A-I-L. Alison, what does fail mean?
To not succeed in something.
That's right. Does he pronounce it fail? Absolutely not. His mother and father gave him the name Fael. But us in Western Canada will read it differently. He's changed it to Frank. He's now Frank. His legal name is Fael, but he calls himself Frank. And everybody goes, yeah, I can buy that name. It's less risky. Now, of course, with our diversity that we have here, we are seeing a lot more variation in names, but you're trying to make it easy for somebody to recognize the brand of who you are. So let's move on to the next one, if we may, please, Alison.
Yes, thank you, Ken. We will go with Norman.
Hi, my name is Norman. I have been working in the financial risk management for over 20 years in a senior capacity. I have exposure in the Asian financial market, mostly in the Middle East, which Alberta share a similar economy, that is oil dependency. I have a MBA specializing in finance, and also holds a PRM designation, which is professional risk management. On my last risk management experience, I headed the Treasury Risk Management Office, and I was responsible for evaluating and reporting risk embedded in currencies, commodities, bonds, and derivatives. In the last 4 years, the risk audit have received a rating of 4 out of 5, 5 being the excellent rating. I am adept in numbers and have a knack of explaining the complex into simple. I believe I'm a good communicator and I can multitask. And with the various projects that I've handled, I deliver it on time. And with my education experience, I'm looking for an opportunity to take the next step in my career here in Canada. I'm currently looking forward to work for a solid and reputable financial or non-financial institution as an analyst role, being risk or an investment capacity, and hopefully work my way up in the process. Thank you.
Okay, good, Norman. Thank you. Thank you for that. So one of the questions I'm going to ask you is, have you had any experience in the theatre?
Here in the financial...
No. On the stage.
Me?
Yes, because
I'm not an actor, if that's what is you're asking.
So you have the advantage clearly of hearing the other individuals that have gone before you. But you pause in between the statements that you gave. You gave a lot of statements and I won't remember them all. But did you notice how Norman paused? That gives my very old brain a chance to process the message and get it in so that it doesn't go in one ear and out the other. So sometimes when we're talking about ourselves, we talk very, 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 very quickly. And in the elevator pitch, you have to pause between the floors. You have to let the message sink in. Now, I'm not thinking you're talking like this, but think about that. And if you struggle with how you want to present yourself, what I suggest to my mentees is identify somebody from your mother country that's made it in Hollywood as an actor. Emulate the way that they present themselves on the stage or on the movie screen or on the radio play, and think about how they talk. So you went up rather more than the floors here with your message. You can finesse that down, but you asked clearly what you were looking for. You told people you had an ask in there. You told them what you were looking for. So thank you for sharing that, Norman. I think Obina is next.
Yes, that's the last hand that's up.
All right. Thank you. I'm Obina. You can call me Obi. I add value as a business analyst with NTT Data. I'm based in Toronto. I also added value in the past by identifying needs for improvement and also working on automating data entry tasks. I have a postgraduate degree in analytical chemistry, and I'm looking forward to an opportunity to drive change, identify opportunities, and also to help organizations to improve their business. I speak 2 languages, English and French. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, RB, and I appreciate you making it easy for me. I then don't mess your first name up. So thank you for sharing that. Thank you for joining us from Toronto. Again, you kept with the levels of details for the elevator pitch. When somebody reaches out to you and say, well, tell me about, you speak French. Okay, what type of French? Do you speak business French? Do you speak colloquial, etc. So you've got this opportunity to branch out with the conversation past these talking points that you've got. So thank you for sharing that with us. Now, Alison, I'm looking at the time, and you and I had said that we would have it formal till 1 o'clock, and people can leave if they've had enough, or if they want to stay on. So what do you want to do? How do you want to process this, Alison?
Yeah, like we have, I think 2 more hands were raised while we were going through the next one. So I'm happy to stay until, I think, Michael, you said 1:20?
Yeah, I said 1:20. So what I'd say to the audience is, please, if there's anything in this presentation, we'll get a copy sent to you through Alison, if you want a copy of the presentation. And hopefully your mentorship process through CREAC will be value added in the weeks and months ahead. So thank you for attending, and I'll be on here for the next 20 minutes or so.
Yeah, thank you. And thanks for everybody who is coming. If you have to leave, that's fine, but you're welcome to stay with us until 1:20. So with that, we will move to Ahmed, if you'd like to share.
Sorry, a question?
I think I raised my hand.
Okay.
What was that, Chris?
Yes, it was me. I just wanted to know whether we shall get the recorded message or just the paper pack.
I am recording this, so I'm going to post it on the website. And then if Michael shares the presentation with me, I can send that directly to you. So you will have access to both.
Thanks.
Thanks, Chris.
Okay, thank you, Alison. My name is Ahmed. I am working as health safety and environmental specialist. I just relocated at Calgary and looking for opportunity here in Canada to join my career, like HSE or health safety and environment career. I added value with my last employers as the health safety and environmental manager for major projects, and this project as well is benchmark projects in the field of oil and gas, as we deliver the project safe and sound with outstanding HSE performance. I have a degree I have a bachelor degree in science, biophysics, and as well a postgraduate diploma in environmental management, and I speak 2 languages, Arabic and English. Thank you.
So thank you, Ahmed, for sharing that little elevator pitch with you. Again, you kept it short, you kept it sweet, and you have an opportunity to, when we talk about safety, safety is so critical in this work, in the Canadian working environment. And when I have formal mentoring sessions, one of the things we go at length is the rules and how safety runs the business. So for example, Suncor announced, probably 10 days ago that they had had an accident at their mine up in the Fort McMurray area with a vehicle, and the person had been killed. Now, the shares went down that day on that one incident. Now, there could have been other drivers, but it's so critical, health and safety. So you then focused on, your background is safety, and then how you had improved the performance. So your accident rate or whatever it was, vehicle incidents or environmental problems, whatever it is in the HSE field, how you've improved those at your past employer. And this is particularly important, and this is, I want to be careful how I say this, but there is a perception in Canada that everybody else around the world doesn't work as safely as we do. And that's not true, but it's a perception. And so by you going in and saying, this is what I did through my last organization, how we achieved these value-added roles, focuses on that part, that safety is critical where you have come from. And I don't know if you're like me, but on LinkedIn, every so often somebody will put a photograph of somebody doing something unsafe. This morning it was somebody starting a chainsaw with the chainsaw between their legs and they're trying to start it. And, you know, laughing about this is the work safety culture in other countries. So you've got a perceptional issue and you addressed it. So thank you for that, Ahmed.
Thank you. And I think, Benson, I had seen your hand up before. Do you still want to share?
Yes, my name is Benson, and I work currently as a consultant, engineering consultant. I worked last with Aeroton EMP in Lagos, Nigeria, and for 2 years, and I was responsible for. I participated in delivering the, the fuels they have. Like, I'm aware that they increased the production from 45,000 barrels per day to 6,000 barrels per day while I was there. And I'm currently in Calgary, looking for another good opportunity. In the past, I worked with a couple of companies, EPC companies here in Canada, in British Columbia, where I was a project coordinator and a senior civil engineer. We helped in delivering some well parts, project pipelines for Penwest Petroleum and other companies here. And I have 2 degrees, a BSc in engineering and a master's in engineering, and also a diploma in project management. And I speak English.
Good to see you, Benson, and thank you for sharing. So again, you stayed on track. Just another observation. You and I talked about this yesterday, so I'm going to raise it again. Many of us are very, very proud of the companies that we've worked for and added value for in our mother countries or the countries that we've worked in before we come to Canada. But sometimes talking about those companies doesn't really mean anything to this audience. So one of my mentees still is in the Russian Far East, and he worked for an affiliate in Russian Far East that was an affiliate of ExxonMobil. So he didn't ever talk about the Russian name of the company. He always talked about, I worked for an ExxonMobil affiliate, which meant something to somebody. So while we're all very proud of the companies that we've worked for in the past, and the work that we've done and the value that we've added, we have to be careful about putting names in that are meaningless, and that's what I would consider a noise feature, right? The rest of the elevator pitch was fine, but you were talking about a company that, had I not talked to you yesterday, I wouldn't have known anything about, and 999 people in Alberta that you might talk to would have never heard of before. So think about that, the signal to noise ratio. But again, thank you, and thanks again for joining today, Benson.
Yeah, but can I ask a question? So that means you don't have to put those companies in your resume?
Yeah, in your resume, yes, you do.
Okay.
But again, think about how you, like my Russian mentee did. The company had its local name, but he always said an ExxonMobil affiliate, and that was meaningful here in North America. Or he's worked for a company that's a Shell affiliate, all right? So they need to be in your resume, but you need to think about. I know from LinkedIn what your LinkedIn account says, and you explained very clearly what the company that you have most recently worked for, how they added value in the Nigerian marketplace, right? So yes, you do need to say the companies. You need to see the countries they're in, because many of us, you'll talk to us here in North America and particularly in Calgary for countries, for companies and municipal districts and states, provinces, territories, whatever you are, that we in Canada are not familiar with. So those, if they're critical to the job that you did, make sure that you are talking about them. But if they're not critical, then let that drift through out into the noise area. So, for example, Benson, and I'm sorry for picking on you. No, I'm not. You know, after our conversation yesterday, had you worked for the state engineering safety department in your mother country, then clearly you focus on that. You worked for the state oil company or the state engineering company or whatever it is. So don't necessarily downplay them, but you know, if they are just a sort of a more routine, make sure you explain where they're at. And it's the same with universities. And I'm not commenting on your information, but most of us are very, very, very proud of the universities we got into. Our mothers and fathers were very proud when we graduated from high school and went on to those next steps. It's important in our lives. But in many instances, your audience, and you're selling to an audience, the audience is buying you, they don't know those universities at all. So, you know, be careful exactly where you're focusing your attention. And I know you didn't speak about that, but that's just an observation to the other audience, members of the audience.
Noted.
Thank you. I see Motaz and I see Michelle there, and then I've got Norman showing up. Alison.
Yes, we'll go with Motaz first.
Can you hear me?
Loud and clear.
Great. Okay. My name is Motaz Shamsan, and I am a former machine operator at ELSCO in Mississauga, Ontario. I have recently relocated in Kitchener, Ontario. Previously, and while pursuing my master's degree in mechanical engineering, I had worked as a research and teaching assistant at Washington State University in the US. Of course, I completed my master's degree there. And before that, I completed my bachelor's degree in the same major. Besides being proficient in English language, I speak Arabic as a native language.
So thank you, Motaz, for sharing that with me. So nice, short messages. I'm going to ask you a cheeky question. Motaz, did you write this down before you started to present it?
Yeah, I got an email asking me to write this down or prepare it before this.
Right. And that's good, because if we prepare, it helps. So I gave a presentation, an interview to a Toronto organization that deals with immigrant employment. And behind my screen, between me and the window, you may be able to see the window in my glasses, I had a big cardboard box with, I had all my answers printed out on a box. So I was prepared for the interview. This wasn't a hiring interview. I was prepared for the interview, and I put all that information up there so that when they asked a question, I knew exactly what I was going to say and how I was going to say it. It's just like actors and actresses. Improvisation on the stage is an amazing experience to be able to do it. Don't improvise your messages, your elevator pitches, your sales points when it comes to being an interview. You can't do that in the physical interview stage where you're sitting across the table from somebody in the old world. But in this world of video conferencing, you can put this stuff up behind the camera. They won't know it's there, but you've done all your preparation. So thank you for doing that. And I think we'll have to finish with Michelle. Let's try Michelle, if you would, please.
Thank you. So can you hear me?
Loud and clear.
Okay, thank you. First of all, I would like to take this opportunity to thank CRAC providing so many valuable sharings that really helpful. Before I go to the elevator page, I'd like to give you a brief introduction of myself. I've been here in Calgary for 8 months. During that 8 months, I got 4 jobs. I used all the skills I learned from my mentors and also a lot of organizations. So today I will use the self-introduction I did to the specific job, and it was also the dream job I just got, and I will be onboarding end of this month. Okay, thank you. I am Michelle, working over 15 years in HR sector, where I gain valuable experience in people data analysis and harassment and violence investigation, which are the two main competencies you are looking for. With my passion, experience, and skills, I'm confident to contribute to the team from day one. Thank you.
Very good, Michelle. So there again, you really focused on the value proposition for an existing job, which ultimately that's what you're going to do in practicing your elevator pitch for the types of questions that you're going to have in the interview. So congratulations on that, and thank you for sharing. So in closing, what we talked about is how I view mentorship and how the mentee owns it. It takes hard work to self-reflect and look at how your career's gone, but you have to reinvent yourself to the careers of the future here in your new home country, not dwell on the past for the careers in your mother country. You have to sell yourself and you have to ask for the job, and key in that is the elevator pitch. So I hope as a result of this hour and 20 minutes that we've spent together, that you've learnt a few more areas where you can be part of a continuous improvement for yourself going forwards. And I thank you for your interest and enthusiasm joining us today. So back to Alison.
Thank you, Michael, and thank you for everybody for coming today. I think if we have time, Michael, I think Norman has one question.
Okay, go ahead, Norman, please.
Yeah, Michael, I would like to ask, how long is long and how short is short in the elevator pitch? Because from what I understand, Bow building will have 50 floors, so that would be 5 seconds, so that would be around 4 minutes. And in the building code, in order for you to have an elevator, you have at least 6 floors, so that would be 30 seconds. So I'm looking 30 seconds and 4 minutes. So what would be the sweet spot between 30 seconds and 4 minutes?
Norman, you're an astute person, and clearly you're good with numbers. I'm a geologist, so I said, yeah, approximately this and that. You read the body language of your audience. If your audience leans in, then they're interested in your message. If the audience leans back, the target for your elevator leans back, they're losing interest in the message. So the whole point of this focus on these steps going up the elevator is to make sure you're getting the most value message into the ears of your audience at that time. If they'll give you 5 minutes to talk about yourself, make sure that you've covered the key pieces of information in case suddenly the elevator door flies open and somebody interrupts you in mid-speech and say, "Oh, boss, I've got to talk to you," or "Oh, excuse me, I whatever it is." So make sure that you're selling yourself at the earliest opportunity and you're not waiting for the key data points to go into the ears of your audience of an elevator pitch.
So Michael, just like courting a lady, right?
I'm not going to address that, Norman.
Okay.
Thank you, Norman and Michael.
Thank you.
Michael, do you have time for one more question from Uche?
Yes, Uche. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Michael. In as much as you want to present ourselves during this elevator pitch, I would like to know what aspect of ourselves. I mean, what part of this introduction should we lay more emphasis on? What do we talk more? What should we talk more about ourselves here? Even if we want to let others go, what aspect of this introduction should we always lay the biggest emphasis?
If you've done your 7 steps of sales right, you've done an assessment of the job description, and as part of the process of crafting a resume, work out what the sequence of bullet points is in the job description. All right. So if a job description begins for an accountant with the safety of our employees is the most critical item in our vision statement, you don't you don't ignore that because you're applying for an accounting job or an engineering job or whatever it is. You say, you know, you have a culture, you've gone through whatever schools you've gone through, whether it's defensive driving, hydrogen sulfide work, whatever type of training that you've done, you make sure you address that going forwards. So, like all good geologists, I'm going to say it depends, Uche, on exactly what your audience, what might be the focus of your audience, and focus on your audience, sell to your audience the strong messages about your experience and the value that you have delivered are delivering in your current job or can deliver in a future job. So Rabi, I'm going to quickly go over to you and then we're going to have to cut it off. We've got 1 more minute.
Yeah, my quick question is like, I was a banker back home and then I spent 4 years doing other stuff in hospitality. I want to come to the finance in the banking sector again. So what is your best advice for me?
I would say, and again, I don't have any experience in the banking sector or the hospitality sector, Rabi, but know your regulations. Identify in your profession what the regulations are, and make sure that you've got in your history, in your CV, in your resume, you're addressing. You've got those. That's part of your needs assessment. Because if you don't, if you say, okay, I want a job in banking, and they say, well, you have to have done this micro certification, this and this, you go, oh, okay, well, nobody told me that. You have to do your homework and identify what the requirements are for the industry that you have to go into. What I can speak, Alvis, as a geologist, if you're going to call yourself a geologist in the province of Alberta, you better have addressed all of the issues that some people have addressed here with a PAGA. So, I mean, that's where I'm more comfortable. But that would be my answer there. Anyway, Alison, I think we better shut it down so my wife can get her podcast recorded.
Thank you for taking some extra time for questions, Michael. And yeah, thank you for what was a great session. And thank you to everyone for coming. I will email the presentation and the recording of today's event. But yeah, it was wonderful, Michael. Thank you so much.
All right, thanks to all. Good luck.
Bye. Yeah.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you.
Good luck tomorrow, Uche.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.
Yeah, bye.